Hello and welcome back to the Flightship. We are starting. No time to rest, no time to stop. Just inject that caffeine right into my veins.
Okay.
Good. I'm glad you comply. Hey, are there any...
Okay, lol.
Have you read Frankenstein?
No.
Oh yeah, we had to read Frankenstein for English, like, in my junior year. Beginning of junior year. Beginning of last year. It was interesting. But it's really weird because it's like nothing like any of the it's nothing like any of the other it's nothing like any of the adaptations of Frankenstein. It's like it's very much not. It's interesting because it's like it's a story about these two like somewhat like it's a story about these two not like the best like because you have Frankenstein and then you have like Frankenstein's monster and like they're both like it's interesting because they're both like sympathetic but they're also both kind of like jerks and like it's like it's interesting because right because it's very interesting. It's more compelling too, so I liked it. Of course, also this depends on what edition you read. And there's a small issue with just a little bit of Victor marries his cousin. So there's a little bit of why in that. But otherwise there's a good foot. So yeah. In later edition, like in edition like 3, I think it was, like in later editions, they go on and they add like a thing where they added a thing where it's like, nah, they're not actually. I think
we won this match.
you know what? I can't. I'm trying to remember. I think I read the first edition. There's like 3 of them. The second one's not that different, but the third one is like somewhat edits a few things. Like in the third edition, they made it so it's not his blood cousin that he's marrying. I do think in both versions, it's like an adopted sister. Either way, because in the first, no, why would we change? I mean, you all can change. I'm staying this. I like this. But, like... So, alright, I'm busy. This is all very important for you to know. But, let's see. So, first edition, it's the cousin of Victor's cousins. So, the caretaker of Victor's cousin, they all die. So then she ends up growing up with Victor. In her family, someone is like a sister, even though they're actually cousins. And then the first time, and then the third edition, they changed it, so it's just some other person that they adopted, no blood relation. Both times, it was like, where like the parents are like, oh, we were always assuming that you'd grow up and marry each other, and like they're like. And like we were worried because of how sad you're acting, because Victor's acting all sad because he literally created a monster. So he's moping about. Victor does a lot of moping, So he's bumming about, and then he's like, "We were worried you were sad because you didn't want to marry your sister," and they're like, "No, that's not the issue. It was a." So there's some very interesting parts. There's some interesting parts of Frankenstein, but besides all that, yeah, it's. I'm not sure if you'll be forced to read it, but I'd suggest maybe you'll finally like one of these. A book that you have to read for school. Has that ever happened, Sammy? It seems that you mostly react with horror whenever these things happen.
Yeah, I can't recall a time. I mean, there's one I liked, but that was one I also got to choose, so...
Oh, you know what else you got to choose? No, I won't go there.
Please don't. You've already.
I'm sorry. But no, I probably should,
I got squid bagged.
Cause you know the modern interpretation of Frankenstein is as like lulling, like this lulling monster. Like the Frankenstein monster in like in the book is like he's like very verbose. Like I think he learns he lives in a hovel and also that happens to contain like 3 like classic pieces of literature in which he learns about like humanity, and so he gets and he's actually quite verbose, and yeah. It's very interesting. And so they're like, cause Victor, like, he creates Frankenstein. He gets like all wrapped up in this, and like while he's doing it, he actually gets very sickly. He gets so wrapped up and he gets very sickly. And then when he finally creates it, he's like so terrified that he runs away and tries to figure it out. And then the monster like just goes about, has like a terror, like, and then because the monster is described as unbelievably ugly in some ways, but also incredibly like he's supposed to be, because when he made it, he's supposed to be like when Victor made him, it's supposed to be because and I might be remembering this wrong, but when Victor made him, he's supposed to be beautiful, but he's not. And apparently he's very... He's not unbelievably ugly, but like at least somewhat scary. Excuse me. So like everyone rejects him. And you feel really bad for the guy until he lashes out by like killing Victor's little brother. So like, and that's
have to read it if you tell them the whole story.
That's at the beginning.
Now they know it's at the beginning.
Mom, really? And also like Victor's like very like sad, going, "Woe is me." Because the monster starts having revenge on Victor for, birthing him into a world that hates him. And he also is doing things of revenge to try and get he wants Victor to make another monster so that he can like have like be complete. And Victor like, and so Victor like starts at it and stuff, but he stops midway because he realized that maybe because the monster's like has superhuman ability too. He's fast. He's strong. He's like, so he's quite
I think
powerful.
Our teammate's AFK.
And shown to be quite angry at the world. And he realized maybe giving the monster a way to reproduce and / or making a situation like so he goes through multiple situations of, well, what if they don't like each other and get mad, or what if they do and make like a bunch of and like start a generation of like terrible monsters that ends the human race. So it's like, maybe I shouldn't do this, and he backs down, and the monster gets mad again and does more terrible things. But Victor, during the whole thing, he's always going, woe is me, I can't believe it. Meanwhile, always, like, the way the monster getting revenge is by killing all his friends. And, like, it's never like, like, he's very himself-centered. Like, he's always like, it's so terrible I have to live with this, and not, also, it's terrible for my friends who are being killed. It's very interesting, because very interesting. It's interesting because it makes you sympathetic to both Victor and the monster, because the monster is because the monster is like, he's not had the best life, you know, where literally everything, including his creator, has rejected him immediately on sight, sometimes rather cruelly. But he's also done like a bunch, like in retaliation, some of the like, again, he murders quite a few people in retaliation. So, like, still an objectively not
like, is
a good
anyone in the
person.
right here?
Yeah, yeah. And meanwhile, Victor, who's done this, and also is somewhat selfish in his regard. Like, the person who played with science and, well, literally, he abandoned this, like, monster without thinking really much of the consequences. And also, because the monster makes, like, one very ominous threat. And, like, he doesn't... Yeah,
We're in
Victor's... Yeah.
We're in danger.
So Victor might be quite selfish, and also played God and did horrific, like, played God, and also is somewhat self-centered. But he's also a bunch of terrible things are happening to him, and like as much, and yeah, also to all of his friends, because they're being literally killed. But it is somewhat like just it's not a very pleasant experience to have all your friends killed.
Communication error occurred.
It's arguably the first science fiction story, or first recognizable science fiction story, to the point where at the beginning of the story, there's a quote at the beginning of the story. So the preface starts with this paragraph: "The event on which this fiction is founded has been supposed by Dr. Darwin and some of the physiological writers of Germany as not of impossible occurrence. I shall not be supposed as according the remotest degree of serious faith to such an imagination, yet in assuming it as the basis of a work of fancy, I have not considered myself as merely weaving a series of supernatural terrors." And that's the first line, and it's pretty much just hashing out the main defining theme of sci-fi, being, yeah, it's not true. Like, it's definitely not true, but it's based on, it's based at least some science. I mean, again, Frankenstein is not very, it's not incredibly, like, and obviously it's based on science back then, like, I think 1800s. It's not nearly as robust now. But the idea is, because it's telling the tale of the scientist, like, going too far, and it's supposed to be, and the idea is, yeah, it's like, I know this is obviously fiction, but it could be real, and that's like the basis of the science. Like, what was meant to just describe this story is pretty well describes an entire genre now. So that's another thing I find quite fascinating about it, and also not very well represented by the media. Like, not even the lightning strike is in the original. Like, he sees a lightning strike and he's inspired by it, but they never say that, like, he uses lightning to power it. Or anything. That's, like, a connection, like... It's so weird because Frankenstein is just not very accurately portrayed at all. Although I don't think Dracula is either. I don't remember, but I haven't read Dracula, so that's different. But it's just quite kind of interesting that it was never. I just find it interesting that it's not nearly as. It's just so weird. It's so weirdly off.
Yeah.
Like the perception of Frankenstein versus what's
It's
actually.
like normally you look at movies or like movie adaptations of books, and it's like, man, that detail's off, or like they didn't do this right.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, some things are like.
Frankenstein's just the whole story.
Yeah, I know some. I mean, no, some adaptations are completely based off to the point where there's like a TV tropes page dedicated to an adaptation only in name. Like, because there's like, because this does happen quite a bit. Speaking of adaptations, I was actually quite disappointed. Do you remember when like the movie like Home came out? It was like an animated kids movie called Home, made by DreamWorks, I think. I don't remember.
I do not know what you're talking
the only
about,
reason I probably remember that movie is because I read the book, The True Meaning of Schmeck Day. And I quite liked it as a kid, and I was somewhat disappointed by the movie. It wasn't the same.
You know, I bought this weapon so that I could use squid beacons. I should start using those.
Yeah, maybe. Are there any adaptations that you think you just dislike of like things you like?
Really? In the traditional sense.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I wouldn't say Home is like a bad movie in general. I mean, somewhat bland, but it's not like a terrible movie. It's just that like the book it's based off of has a very like unique charm to it that's not at all captured by the adaptation, which is why I was so disappointed by it. Oh shoot! I thought I still had inkjet. Now I'm alright. You know what? I'm just gonna throw it. Whoops. Okay. So I wasted that special entirely. Oh yeah. So wait. What's your least? What do you think is your worst adapted? Like the worst adaptation you've ever seen?
Of any sort of adaptation.
Adaptation of anything to anything.
Well, then that would. I don't know. I mean,
a lot of choices.
Then, yeah. So for being put on the spot right now, I'd have to come up with the Legend of Zelda cartoon, video game to cartoon.
That would make sense.
That really doesn't have anything to do with like the Zelda games that existed. Gets the characters completely wrong. Like Link is just like kind of annoying in that cartoon. Like
also,
he's not the silent hero you know from the Zelda series. He's loud, he's obnoxious, and he constantly is saying, "Well, excuse me, princess." Yeah, that's the whole joke of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Although I do have to say,
he also really likes killing things. He expresses that a lot in this cartoon, like just in the first episode.
Yeah. All right. So you've actually watched this.
I've watched the first episode.
Oh wow. So yeah,
I could very well watch. More.
How does it compare to Sonic Boom?
I would like to say. All right, I'm exiting out.
Sonic Boom is its own beast.
Yeah, I'm exiting out. So what I was gonna say is I think there is something to be said with what's it called? Oh yeah, with it's a much more comedic style, where like the comedic style and slightly cheesy style, I wouldn't say it worked well, but it worked better in Mario than with Zelda. Because Zelda always feels a bit more like serious, yeah, a bit more serious. But anyhow, we can talk more about this on the next episode. But until then, we thank you all for flying with the Flightship. When it comes to entertainment, we know you have a choice, and we thank you for flying with the Flightship. We hope you continue to the next episode of our flight, and consider joining our frequent flyers program by hitting the subscribe button.